What's up, everyone? Episode 2, Robby's World, coming at you. My goal is to have an episode a week. Last week, I had Tiger Jazz Twirls Big Stick, who's on his way to a big win in District 4 of City Council. And today, I have one of my favorite people of all time, Nicole Yarbrough. Some
Hi.
call her, I don't know what they call you. Do you have a nickname yet?
Well, I have a few.
Colioli?
That's what
All
Jess
right,
calls
there you go.
Loli.
But yeah, we've
Yeah.
known each other for a while now, coming on like 300 years. I think we're like soul brother and sister for sure. I don't know if I
For sure.
I don't know if you're cutting out a little bit, but if that keeps going, we'll figure it out. Give me another test.
Okay. Hi.
All right, you're perfect. So yeah, Nicole. I'm just gonna get out of the way for half of this. I already know, but tell us about yourself. Tell us about
Oh,
your
now
little
you're
life in Pacifica. Am I
back
breaking
now.
up? Oh, this might be a dud. Let's see. How's it going now?
Uh-oh.
Now you're frozen. What happened?
Wait. Wait a second. You were cutting out a little bit.
Yeah, so are you. It's funny because we were just talking for the last hour with no problems. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna stop this one and start a new one. That might help. And double check your Wi-Fi. Is your Wi-Fi really good?
Maybe it's because my daughter came home
She's on your Wi-Fi now.
on my Wi-Fi. Let me just take off my. All right. Sound better?
Yeah, I think so. All right, I'll definitely have to clip that out. So we just had a little technical difficulty, but that's what happens, when you're starting your podcast out. So
Yeah.
we're here with Nicole Yarbrough, a good friend of mine I've known for a long time. We met at the Pacifica Best Western Lighthouse Hotel, and she hates when I tell the story that she fired me, but we won't get into that. She says she set me free, and I agree. So I appreciate that.
We
Um,
wouldn't be here right now.
we would not be here right now. Can you imagine if we were both actually at work at the Best Western Lighthouse Hotel right now?
No, I
Okay,
can't.
good.
I really can't.
So yeah, we lost touch for a little bit, but then we reconnected, and then we started doing yoga together because you're an amazing yoga teacher, and I'm not just saying that because you're the only yoga teacher I've ever had. And then you joined the board at the resource center for a while, so we got to work there, and then we kind of just formed like this cool little crew in Pacifica, and we've kept in touch over the years, and now you're doing so many amazing things that I was like, okay, you gotta definitely get on the podcast now. You're usually my first guest, but I had to sneak Tiger in there because of the election. So we'll talk about
Oh,
the election. I'm sorry.
I'm honored.
Yeah, so you're the second, but by far like my favorite. So you don't have to worry about that. um, but yeah, so obviously you're born and raised in Pacifica. I so far, we've had two Pacificans and probably maybe a little bit of different experience than Tiger, but who knows? You guys are both kind of like back of the valley folk, but you're in Sharp Park now, which is great. Welcome to the north side.
Mhm.
And yeah, I guess we'd start out just a little bit about like who you are, what you do, and then yeah, what life was like growing up in Pacifica, some of your favorite things, and maybe some things that we can work on, and then we'll get into like what you're doing with the Social Unity Project.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so I grew up here and same as Tiger, 30 seconds somewhere else, and the rest of my days here in Pacifica. A couple of jaunts to other places, San Francisco for a little while, lived in the Excelsior, and then did a little time in Hawaii for school and some other things. Um, but yeah, now I live in Sharp Park. I grew up on Terra Nova. My mom still lives there. Went to Terra Nova High School, went to Ortega, kindergarten through 8th grade. Um, and it was funny because my daughter went there for kindergarten through 2nd grade, and her principal was Mr. Rogers, who was my
Oh,
eighth
I
grade.
had Mr. Rogers. That's funny. It's
He
Sharp
was
Park.
my 8th grade science teacher, and he was one of the reasons why I love science so much because he was one of the
Mr.
best.
Rogers is like Mr. Bancroft. Like it's just like yes, sir.
It was one of the best. I mean, I
Yeah.
love that. There's something very Robin Williams about him, but
I was gonna say it reminds me of Robin Williams with like that voice too. Like that's funny.
yeah,
And they're both furry like me, so
yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah, so my mom's here, my dad's here, my sister is in Sacramento. I have a daughter, she's 21. And yeah, we live here in Shore Park, right by the water, and it's great. And it's also awful to be so salty all the time and everything rusts, but the small price to pay, I say, for what we get over here. Um, I love Pacifica. It's like Hawaii on the mainland for me. Um, but yeah,
So
Pacifica.
you're back to the valley for the most part. Now you're north, and I mean, you every time I'm on your Instagram, it's either like some inspirational quotes or it's like a picture of the beach, or you're like, you wake up way earlier than me, and you're like catching like waves with like rainbows in them and stuff. So follow her on Instagram if you need a little pick me up. Is the point of that? What was Pacifica like? I know you said your parents like lived here and growing up, like were you like everyone else, like you couldn't wait to get away and then you kind of left and then you realized like how special it was, or did you kind of always know how special it was? And what do you think about that?
Well, I think there's a little bit of both, right? Like, um, growing up in Pacifica, and my mom and dad moved here in 1972, and then I was born. My sister was 74, and then I was born in 1976. Um, and being mixed race in Pacifica of all places, and in back of the valley of all places, had its moments, of course.
Yeah.
Um, so, but it wasn't, you look back, and there's a lot of things that are just endured, and you go on, and you live your life, and you make the best out of everything, and you try and just live happily ever after, right? No matter whatever that looks like.
Yeah, it's
Um,
easier said than done, but like that's why it's like so cool to always talk to you, and hopefully people get that vibe from you now through this episode. But
well, and that doesn't mean like always, because especially these last few months, like it hasn't been easy at all. But um, you know, there's always there's always got to be just this little bit of hope, that everything will turn out right. And it feels great this last few days to just have a little relief. But this last 4 years, let's say, in Pacifica, and this last even 9 months or so, has been quite revealing. Um,
well put.
many in many ways, as we said in some of my groups, the veil has come off, right? And that's a big part of yoga, by taking the veil off, being present, seeing things for what they really are, and really discovering yourself along the way. um yeah, I mean, it hasn't been easy, but it hasn't been uh, awful to grow up in a small town. Um, there's a lot of good people. There's a lot of questionable people, but that's everywhere. That's
Yeah, I guess we
everywhere.
are discovering that more. You bring up a good point, and you actually like touched on a lot of good things, or like topics that we should obviously. So if we're continuing the episode, the episode one was before the election, and now we've seen the election. So for the people watching in the future, you want to give them just like a brief update of like what the
Yeah.
world is like right now.
Can we all just take a deep breath together? Deep inhale, let it
Namaste.
go. Um, well, first and foremost, we have a woman of color as a vice president in the United States of America. First and foremost. Also, we have Joe Biden as president, but um, it's a different era to have a woman in office, period. Um, and that is the being a part of that, being able to witness that, uh, is like Obama, on a whole other level, on the next level, really.
Mm.
Um, and so it feels good. It feels good to have that sense, a sense of calm back in, although nothing really has changed technically
Yeah.
yet. It's just nice to see that there is something on the horizon besides what we have had for the last 4 years. um so, with that being said, with the reveal happening, learning about who people are for and who they are not for, and having to, question a few things.
Yeah.
I've had to just hop on to a few things, and I'm not in my general nature, I really don't get too involved.
Yeah, it's
People
funny because
are,
people think you're quiet and like shy, but like you're not
well,
sometimes. But
and that's when I'm very much an introvert unless I'm not.
yeah,
And then something to talk about. I just don't. I think with certain things. I think I've posed this before, but small talk is just we're just beyond that at this age. I feel like
yeah, we want real
like
talk.
uh, there's a lot of shit going on, and I want to it's worth everything. We need to talk about everything. um so yeah, with that being said, and growing up in Pacifica, which is predominantly white, still predominantly white, but even
Yeah,
more
it's
so.
like it's got to be like 96% white
Yeah,
at this point. Well, this new census is coming up, but last census it was like 4% were people of color, I think, or 2%
yeah,
Asian. I don't know.
and that's only in particular parts too. I mean, that you look at certain parts of Pacifica,
Oh,
and it's
totally. Yeah,
really very different. um So yeah, I grew up in Back of the Valley, which definitely has its racist undertones, without a doubt. I remember the first experience I had. I think I might have been 8 or 9. It was one of my when I was old enough to like walk by myself somewhere, um, and I walked down to the Adobe to like get candy. So right, Adobe
the
and
dairy.
the dairy, yeah.
Yes.
Um, And this boy rides his bike by me and he says, "Ew, black girl." And I was like, "Ooh,
Me?
stop it," and that's all I remember, right? It was so long ago, but it's just that one phrase like just sticks.
It's
And then
crazy.
a few years later, me and my friends we used to walk from Pedro Point to Back of the Valley, the corral,
Oh
on
yeah.
like a couple times a day sometimes, which is nowadays because that's like 4 miles,
Yeah,
five
but when
miles,
you're
or I
young,
don't even know.
you just walk. You want to go
Um,
on your bike or whatever, and you just it's just good to be out of the house.
March, yeah. All you need is to talk about, and then you can go anywhere. But in that same place, we were walking past it. There was a little white wall, and it said "N word, go home." And it was just
And
it's
this
a
is the
trip.
80s,
Like this was the '90s
80s, 90s.
now. Well, yeah, the first one was probably '80s, and then the next one's the '90s.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's other, I've definitely had my racism stories. We have our own on the corner, right over here, which maybe it wasn't racism, maybe
Well,
it
yeah.
was
I
just,
mean, well, like last month, I sent you a picture of someone put ALM over BLM. It's just like,
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, so and then my neighbor, once I put my Black Lives Matter sign up, then she's yelling out there one sunny day when it's beautiful in Pacifica and everybody's here. She's out there yelling. She's a Trump supporter and
yeah.
drunk, and so and then flags flying. There was somebody I know that was flying a flag, not here, but and I had to call him out, like, what are you trying to communicate with that particular
Was it a
flag?
Trump flag or was it the BLM or the Blue Lives Matter flag or what? What flag was it? Or is it the 76?
It was a 76 flag.
Yeah.
And so it's like, people, you know I have to ask, because if I know you, I want to know what you're trying to
Yeah, you're
communicate.
really good about that, and I think I compliment you every time I see you because I always see you like respond to people on Facebook because like no one comments on your page because I think they just know, but like I see you getting into conversations and it just amazes me how quick they either like say some stupid shit and then disappear, or they just disappear. But you have so much patience with it. I wanna get in there, and maybe this is why this podcast is so important. Like I want to get in there, but it's just like
You know,
arguing with people over the internet is bad. But when it comes to this shit, it's like, are you serious?
well, it's so multidimensional with Facebook, with media, with it's you really have to be careful. And you can't get involved in everything. And there were a few times where, when all this stuff really exploded, after George Floyd, where, people were really making some interesting comments. And
Yeah, like trying to justify or
yeah,
explain.
and
Yeah.
sending me videos, like telling sending me videos about Black Lives Matter and why I shouldn't be supporting them and things like
Oh
that.
yeah,
And
like attacking the organization and not the movement, and being completely blind to.
yeah, and then and not and really just being set in their opinions, and why they thought they could come to me, or should come to me, or have any place in anything that I do, and what I do with my money is blows my mind. But things like that. I mean, a lot of people that I just let go. I'm just like, I gotta, you're not gonna be on my page. It's not even not even just an unfollow. It's just we're not friends.
Yeah, so you what
You're
you
going
kind of taught me. You give them a chance. You ask them what their intentions were. If they do come back and double down, you're like, okay, you decide whether or not you want to spend your energy on that. Like what are Nicole's? I guess this would be a good one. Like Nicole's tips for like being a good
to,
influence on the internet when you see your friends doing some stupid, questionable shit, and you just kind of want to go, huh? Like check them because maybe they don't realize like what's your process like, and what would it take for them to get completely just blocked and deleted and see you later.
and I'm not right or wrong. There's no right or wrong way to do anything really. And it's such a case by case basis, and it really depends on what's being said, and if it is really just um disturbing, then, and I know you, and uh then I'm going to question it. And sometimes I might question it privately, but sometimes I won't, because if you post it on your page, then there's
Yeah,
that. But and there was a lot of energy in that before, and of course that calms down, and it transforms into productive actions, because uh you can't really argue something to somebody sometimes, or you can't, it's not, I don't know, it's hard to say. Like, I don't want to try and change people's minds. I try and um open their eyes to something they may not be seeing, or seeing like a different
yeah,
perspective.
and that might
you know
be the hardest thing for people to do when they're in their own bubble or they're in crisis where they get, they're so set in their opinion, and then you kind of go, but what about this? And then they're either you're met with what, like, oh fuck you, or just like, oh, I haven't thought about that way, but or
uh
nothing.
well, it depends on the subject, right? Like, I mean, I've tried to talk to family about their support of Trump. Like, tell me, just explain it to me. Like, why? Like, what what about it, right? um when this George Floyd stuff came out, one of my cousins was like, but what if it wasn't racist? And that was his first thing he says. Just, and it's a lot of stuff that um you can't take personal, but at the same time, you don't want to let slide, because
Yeah,
it's, and you don't want to be judgmental of people, and you don't want but at the same time, the difference about a lot of this is, this last 4 years is about character. It's been really about your character, and what you're willing to tolerate, and what's all right with you. Um and if all the stuff that this so-called president has done in the last 4 years is okay with you, to the point where you're willing to vote for him again. Like I just question the intelligence, and I hate to be like, I don't like, I just like, what is that? How does that make sense when you
Yeah.
have daughters, when you have friends of color, when you have, you're not making all this money. How did this person really benefit you? And then just kind of to switch gears over, like I've just been thinking lately, Kamala Harris was a cop,
Well,
but
I was gonna bring that up after your because we're just supposed to update. So yeah, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they're
oh
in
yeah,
office.
we didn't even
Yeah,
get that yet. That's true.
Trump is
Yep.
fighting. He's accusing the Democrats of cheating. So we're still kind of waiting to make sure it's official. But as far as I think the world is concerned, we do have a new president and new vice president. But if to sum this election up, if you weren't part of this, it was almost like a vote for a not Trump. So like it's trying to understand why people would even support Trump in the first place, and then the folks who won't support Trump. So we're kind of like going to support Biden and Harris. It's not like it was like a Bernie AOC ticket. Like have you seen that meme where it's like when you order Coke and it's like Bernie and AOC, but they only have Pepsi, and then it's Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But it's just like the internet has no chill, but there's a little grain of truth to all of these things. So yeah, like the work is not done. Kamala Harris doesn't have a good rapport with her. What was it, a jurisdiction or what? Like, I don't know how to get
I don't
basically
know.
picking up what you're saying. Like, she was what was she? She was like
Wasn't she a prosecutor or district attorney?
district attorney or something. So yeah, like I've seen her or I've heard she's done some pretty bad things about like putting transgender folks into different cells and stuff like that, or locking African American or black folks like up for certain things. And so yeah, everyone's celebrating like kind of how we started this off. You're like there's a person here, a woman of color in the White House, but it's just like there's always these little asterisks everywhere. Like obviously no one's perfect and people can change. Yeah, well
Nobody's
said.
perfect, right?
Yeah,
Nobody's,
but now what
but
is the main message? We got to hold them accountable now, or
well, absolutely, as we should hold everybody accountable. That
but like I guess we couldn't hold Trump accountable because he just had so many like mindless supporters, not mindless, but just supporters. And did you
is
ever
it?
get answers for that? What do people tell you when you ask them that? Is it just about the money, or is it just doesn't affect them?
Well, that's what I have been hearing a lot lately. Is well, I made more money under Trump.
So people are
That's
just scared of being broke, scared of being poor, can't admit.
which is crazy. But I mean, do they not see like what the big picture is? It's not.
I guess it
Um,
doesn't affect them. It doesn't come into their house, so they don't care. And there's some people who do care, and others that don't.
well, yeah. I mean, you got half of the voting population that still voted for him, right?
Yeah,
You really
so 70 million people still voted for Trump.
still just squeaked by when you really look at it. And that's what's really disturbing is that but then where does that support go is the other question, right? Now that there isn't a Trump to support, where does all that go? Because it was so cultish, it was so automatic, right? It was so like very different than any other type of support. You didn't see this type of
Yeah.
support with George Bush.
Yeah, but I think that's by design because I think Trump has a good marketing team and he understands branding and stuff like that. Like a lot of his ads are really good. But it's just because that's that's the industry I'm in. But it's just sad that people fall for it. But then I know there's not all the people that are voting for Trump are what you would picture. So
Have you seen the maps that are breaking out? I don't think it's this year, but I think it was last election. Like people of color and then white women. Um,
like if all people of color voted, if all white women voted, if all white men, yeah.
yeah, I thought that was really fascinating, um, but also not really surprising at the same time.
So, what do you say to did you know anyone who was like, my vote doesn't count. I'm not going to vote. Like, did you have to like convince anyone to vote, or is everyone you talked to for the most part like engaged and ready to roll?
This time around, everybody that I do talk to, um, was voting, no question about it. I know that there was a couple people that voted for the first time. I'm hoping that some
Yeah,
people voted for the
I'd
first
like
time.
to say there's some good that came out of the Trump presidency. Is like a lot
Absolutely.
more people care.
Absolutely. Like there's definitely good. More people voted than ever before. So that's great. And there was so much change that happened throughout the nation. Um, and I feel like, as I felt with Hillary Clinton, like if everybody was able to vote, like everybody, no matter the age, right? I feel like, the majority of us are still on the side of love and compassion um and wanting what's best for everybody. um it's really unfortunate to see how much violence and how much hate spews from anything Trump related,
Yeah.
right? Like it's amazing to me that that is, I don't know. It doesn't even, it almost is like it doesn't even get really talked about nearly as much. It's not paid attention to as much. And maybe that's just um, again, by design.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
think I was gonna add, like follow up is like how much do you think like the media plays in this? And like the media is not gonna put themselves under the microscope. Like, let's not get it twisted. It's like, we're selling ads where we want you on our screen watching our coverage. And so like yeah, you see just the hate spewing and some of that maybe by design. Were you surprised by like all the celebrations and everything like when they announced Joe Biden won? Like, did you expect like
uh,
Castro to just look like freaking New Year's? Like, were you shocked by that? Or are you surprised? I was too, and I don't know why. Like,
I'm not, I mean, I'm
everyone's
not,
been hiding because
no, no,
hate
no.
hate was winning.
I'm not surprised by it. I'm
Oh,
not
you
surprised.
weren't surprised. So you expected like I didn't think people were gonna run with champagne. Like, I just didn't think people were too that excited about Biden. But I guess that they're more excited that Trump was defeated.
I mean, really, that's the thing. It's to know that we're not going to have another 4 years of the same thing.
Yeah,
That we're going to have 4 years of reform of some sort, because this guy came in the door 4 years ago and just fucked shit up
yeah.
from the get, from the get.
And maybe
And
not. It didn't affect me as much. Maybe just being like a white straight male in Pacifica, California. But like some of my friends and family who I love dearly, like they were like, "Oh, we have rights again," and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like and they're gay or whatever. And so it's like it had to hit me on the head again because I don't, I'm the star of my own movie, so I wake up and da 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 da. But then like, you know, seeing through other people's eyes that day and just seeing them in the streets and being so happy, it's like, wow, I forgot what that felt like to like feel united and feel like the momentum is on our side. But
well,
then you,
we're lucky to live in a place that is around San Francisco, that is in the Bay Area, because of the diversity here.
yeah,
Because, I mean, that's what makes it such a great thing. The majority of Californians voted for Joe Biden. I mean, it wasn't questionable,
yeah. I guess when you're in California, you kind of knew that one was gonna
yeah,
happen. But then you look
that
at the rest of like the in between, like, oh my god. Then you zoom in, you're like, okay, Austin, like Dallas, like all the major cities were all blue, and then everything else is red. So it's like, what are those people's worlds like? How are they? Does everyone
well,
just grow up differently, and so they just form their own
I think
opinions
it's
somehow?
I really just think it's education, and I think it's I think it's exposure to diverse populations,
That's
right?
true.
Like in these big cities, you have these diverse populations. You have people working alongside, their kids going to school with, all these different types of people. Um, but you don't so much in these rural areas.
Yeah, so
Um,
you're kind of in that
and
echo
it,
chamber or whatever.
yeah, but then you also look at the system, and you look at, this is one of the most telling um, comparisons for me, is the amount of prisons that have been created in the last 40 years versus the amount of universities that have been created in the last 40 years. You got 22 to 1, right? And so just just with that in of itself, we know that education is a real issue in this nation, because the amount of money that goes into education versus the amount of money that goes into the prison system is astronomical. It's just ridiculous. It doesn't make any kind of sense. And so we end up with these scenarios that really don't make sense because you've got people voting for this person and they don't have education. They don't have a higher
Yeah,
education.
they only think this far.
Yeah, and
But then
they
there are folks that I know who went to more college than me and got exposed more than
I
me,
mean,
and they're still. So it's like
true. And maybe that's the money side of things, you know, maybe they're because it's like
I
I
think it's guns and money. Those are the two main things I saw: guns, money, and they just love America. They love the Constitution. But I mean, I think you brought up a good point about like education, the exposure to diversity. Like my dad had me go to the middle school that was like I was the minority. Like they called me Casper, and I fucking loved it. Like it was cool to just grow up with all these different, and like we all talk now. I think we're like the closest middle school class there ever was. Like some of my best friends, and so I didn't realize that though, because I just thought that's how you grow up, especially being in, a very diverse area already. But yeah, my experience at Pacific Heights Middle School compared to the middle school in the back of the valley, like very different. So
yeah.
it's interesting to hear your take on that because, my best friend's Andre and he's like Puerto Rican and Creole. And so, all the kids looked more like him at my middle school, but all the kids look like me at his. So that's really interesting. So like I was gonna ask you like how do you think parenting also comes into play there then? You being a parent, obviously, and I've been hearing that a lot that like the style of parenting over maybe the last 25 to 30 years has played into the way some people are going.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I think that I think it's unfortunate in this country that it is so hard to survive. It's so hard to live on your own. It's so hard um, to be able to make ends meet. The whole
American dream.
right, the whole
Yeah.
country. I'm talking about a $15 an hour minimum wage. Like it doesn't make sense that there is so much struggle in this country. And so I think that, families have changed, um, households have changed because people are working and they're working all the time to
And it's not
uh,
mom and dad working, like there's
it's
all different.
mom or dad.
Yeah,
It's
mom
not
or dad, or you're on your own because both your parents are shit and you've been on your own since 18 and you just kind of, you're surviving that way. But
you
yeah, I
know
think
that
a lot of it has to do with like, capitalism, the American dream. Does the government even want like educated folk? Like, are we the coastal elites so the rest of the world hates us versus, it's like all these things that I'm just trying to like call on to get your opinion on. But I mean, you
yeah.
brought up some pretty good points and it'd be interesting to see how this all plays out. What are your projection or your prediction on like how it goes for the next like 2 weeks? I think by December 14th, all the votes at least have to be counted, and Trump has to decide whether or not he's leaving. And then January 10th or something is when he's supposed to like hand over the keys. But if you're going to fast forward and we're going to check in later, how do you think this is all going to play out?
Man, it's so hard to have projections and predictions because this guy is so um
Unpredictable.
unpredictable, but he's just from a different flock, he's cut from a different fabric. I don't know, like the it's hard to think so corruptly because that's
Yeah.
what he does. That's what all his people. It's like, of course, you're gonna find a loophole or something you can get through all this because you've been looking for it the
Yeah, they're
whole
gonna squeeze,
year,
squeeze, squeeze until it's like absolute.
right?
But you think like they're gonna have to like remove him from the White House?
I don't think he's gonna be like throwing an actual temper tantrum. I would hope, but at the same time, I don't really want to um overestimate him. Because we've seen what he's capable of. I would hope that he could just leave gracefully and with whatever dignity he borrows from somebody else. Uh, but uh, I mean, we have 10 weeks. I mean, what I think the damage and the way that he would inflict lifelong legacies in policy or whatever it is that he can change, um, for the American people. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I think his nomination for the Supreme Court was really big enough. I think that was so huge and so amazingly hypocritical, um, which isn't surprising. Uh, so I don't know. I mean, I can't even speculate, and I'm glad that I can't
Yeah,
speculate.
I was gonna like try to figure out where you can like say something's gonna happen, then maybe I can because I'm gonna be a big YouTube star, you know, and I'm gonna clip it with like Nicole knew it. But yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
it's even worth the energy trying to predict how this is gonna play out. I would love for it just to be over with, and then we can start, you know, working on this administration and really seeing some systematic change and seeing
yeah,
how
and
everything else goes. So
I think that was one of the big things that I took from the speech last night or the night before. Um, was it last night?
it's all
No,
blurred together. I think last night at 5 p.m. was that? It could have
I think it was
been
Saturday.
Saturday. Yeah, I think it was Saturday. Because
Um,
last night I watched The Mandalorian and caught up on my shows. So.
um, I think that, just their willingness to speak to systemic racism, to say those words, right? I mean, you have a president prior that won't even speak to racism, won't speak to white supremacy, um, won't denounce those types of things. But
Yeah.
these two coming in with that on their list of to-dos, to really tackle that problem. And it's such a big job because, in my just living, but also in, past few months research and stuff, systemic racism isn't necessarily in policies, it's in practice. And it's not, you're not going to be able to just look for it in a binder and be able, we need to change this. um, and so that's kind of what makes it a little bit trickier and such a deeper project, because it's in the hearts and minds. Like, it's a mindset, it's a practice that needs to be practiced, like yoga. And it's a muscle that uh needs to be contracted and released, and again and again and again, so
Yeah, and
that
it's gonna be hard it's hard because it's worth doing as I'm learning, as I'm starting to work out and do things like I'm trying to like reteach well not reteach myself. Jen's helping, but like I'm trying to like cook now. I'm like, oh my God, I need to be better at this. But it's just like I keep seeing like things on Instagram. It's like, you know, the hard things are supposed to be hard, they'll be rewarded after. But that yeah, even when we first started doing yoga, I was like, oh my God, I'm just here to take the nap at the end. But like, yeah, things are hard and they're worth doing. And hopefully the reward is, you know, better health, wealth, mind, body, soul.
yeah. And it's being able to experience life fuller for everybody, right? It blows my mind sometimes that racism even exists, that there is practices against people of color, because anything that helps a person of color really automatically will benefit a person that is not of color.
Yeah,
It's
but
just
people don't
world,
get this.
but
It's hard to
right?
think on that
Well,
level.
people don't get that nothing in their house is probably made in America, right? Um, but pro America. Um,
Yeah, I think it's just easier just to have the American pride than it is to like do the investigating and actually do the footwork. So where I do have some questions for you at the last half of this, so we'll get into like more practical steps and the things you talked about. But one of the main reasons I wanted you to come on is to talk about the Social Unity Project. I mentioned it briefly in Tiger's interview, and I know we're going to start hearing a lot more about it. But can you kind of talk about what that is, how you're who you are in that realm, and if there are any other hats that you wear, or you know, we should probably just focus on the Social Unity Project, and then yeah, how it came to be and what it's currently doing, and then where we're headed.
yeah. So Social Unity Project was
Also known as SUP,
also known as
and
that's
that's what's up.
what
Sorry, I'll let you talk now. My bad.
fine. Who needed that? Um, so Social Unity Project, it is a nonprofit organization that was conceived um, in June and inspired by current events, of course. Um, and it, just a late night inspiration that there was an energy here after that march. And even for myself, I felt like I could just, I could march to Sacramento and all the way, across to DC after that march, because there was so many people and such a beautiful turnout. And it was very emotional for me to be a Pacifican and to grow up the way that I did. I wasn't expecting that many people. And so it was very, really, really emotional for me. It was especially emotional to see people that I knew. Um, and besides the people that I had come with, there was a lot of people I didn't see too. So there's that. But
I know I was late. I'm sorry. I saw you at Taco Bell though. No,
oh
I know
no,
you're
no,
not. I know you're not talking about me.
um, but that was it just I was inspired to do something, and I really wasn't quite clear on what that was, but I knew it had to be something. I had to create a space for this work to continue in Pacifica in some kind of way. Um, and so it started as the Race Relations Coalition, and that was what I had called it. And then I emailed a couple people, like you and a few other people, that one night, and everybody's like, "Yeah, whatever you want, whatever you need, we're on board. We totally support you. This is a great idea." Um, and and then it was weird, because now I look back, how did I decide who I was gonna, reach out to first? And I think it was just um, people's presence, how they showed up either at that march or after, um, online, or speaking to me, or whatever it may be. Um, and Shauna was one of them, and so Shauna Cook, uh, I asked to be on it as well, and she's the psychotherapist, and that was a really important component for me, because I knew that this was healing work that needed to be done, whatever that looked like, because that is really my nature, is to try and make shit better, whether it be a place, a person, um, a program. It's not always successful, right? But that's the mission, right? To make shit better. And so to be able to do that therapeutic work, I needed a therapist of some sort. I'm not certified therapist. I'm a yoga teacher, um, and a therapist in real life, it feels like sometimes. But uh, we're creating an educational platform that is focused on anti-racism work. And that's a huge topic, and it's really a new topic, right? Even just the phrase anti-racism, it's it's about being active, right? Taking action when it comes to racists, when it comes to racist policies, when it comes to racist practices, um, and taking those steps to make change, to get to these places, to use our connections, to use our voice to affect change uh, higher up, the people that are making decisions, right? So right now, and I have to admit, like when we set out to do all this, I don't know that we knew exactly what direction it was going to go in. because this is new. It is it's this concept that needs to be amplified right now, to be anti-racist. It's not enough to just say I'm not racist. You know, you have to act in ways that benefit others, particularly Black, Indigenous people of color. So, um, so right now, we got into the task of speaking with the police in Pacifica here, because there is that uh, what's the word, stigma, I guess you would say, because of all the violence that has happened. Pacifica is not immune to it. Errol Chang, 6 years ago, it happened in Pacifica. It didn't happen from Pacifica PD. It was Daly City SWAT, but you know, in connection with Pacifica PD. So there are feelings here in Pacifica, um, and that's important to know and understand. And I don't know if I knew that um, prior to a lot of the recent happenings, um, because you know we just get complacent in our lives and we go about our business.
Yeah, it's
Um,
not new. It doesn't affect me. Kind of trying to
yeah.
survive, like you said. But it's not.
Um,
It's not. It's not new. It's just kind of like continuation. Because Tiger brought up there, Errol. Is that how you say it? Errol?
Errol Chang.
Errol
Yeah.
Chang. Yeah, he. We brought that up too, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
Pacifica doesn't have a SWAT team, so that's who we would call again. And the way mental health is even talked about now,
Yeah.
you know, regardless if it's a person of color or anything, it's just like, some guy had a knife, and I think he was Black, but he got shot, and some of my cop friends were like defending it, and it's like you wouldn't want to go talk to him. It's like can you see past that?
Yeah. There's so much.
So it's mental health, anti-racism. It's all kind of,
Yeah, and so that's what that's our focus is kind of the mental health side of the anti-racism work, right? Because
yeah, having the conversations, not just defund all cops are bad, see you later. Like you're gonna, like you do on Facebook, you're gonna give them a chance to talk first.
it's not even about a defund at this point for us. Like that's not really our platform.
But I'm not you guys, but like online, you just see people are just like no fucks given, all cops are bad, defund. But that's not,
Yeah,
there's conversations to be had there.
yeah, because we can't generalize everything, and we have to deal with everything on an individual basis. Like what's going on in Pacifica isn't what's happening in Half Moon Bay, and isn't what's happening in Daly City or Bayview or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So trying to figure out what works for Pacifica, because um, it's important to know what the people's feelings are about the police in our town. And if there's a problem, the police actually do want to get involved to find some solutions.
Yeah.
So we've had two conversations, one with just Chief Steidel, and then our second one we had with Bill Glasgow and Chris Clements as well. And we're trying to come in and facilitate a type of bridge to the community too, because the community needs to get involved at this point. Um, there's been a superficial type of involvement happening, and so the
Yeah, when
community,
everything was normal, the status quo is just continuing, and now it's hard to look away. So
and that was talked about how how after 9/11 they were getting the kudos, and after things
a
like
lot of propaganda, a lot of
they get the, I guess, the compression, the love, because it's the band of brothers or whatever
totally.
right. So but this is also a part of it. Now we're on the other side of things, so this is where the work is. It's super easy to be like riding on the coattails in a sense, no disrespect on that, but of what other police officers have done. And because you've taken that, you also have to take this other side too.
Mhm.
So I
Were they
think
open to that, or like how are the conversations going? You don't have to get into too many details, but like, are there any takeaways from those two conversations that you can share?
They both conversations have been really positive, and just because we're on the second conversation, we're still getting to know each other,
Yeah.
right? We're still getting to know what our roles are going to be in all this, and who we are. I'm lucky to have gone to school with Bill and Chris, so I'm familiar
That's
with
what I'm saying.
them.
It's like at the research center. Like if we can figure out in Pacifica that it could work potentially anywhere, but it's like it really is one big family, one dysfunctional big family in Pacifica. Like we kind of already are, 1 or 2 degrees away from each other already. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and I think, the collaboration of it is what's important for us. We're not trying to come in and say, hey, do this, do that. We're like, hey, we want to facilitate the conversation so that we can figure out what the community needs from you and what you need from the community. The police department, that there's work that needs to be done, right? And then they want to work with us to create something that can this relationship that community has with police in general, right? And this is and Pacifica, in comparison to, let's say, where I work, is opposite sides of the spectrum. Pacifica is, I would say, easy,
Yeah,
maybe.
you're for the folks listening or watching. You're in Bayview, Hunters Point, YMCA, right?
Yeah, yeah, which is, a very different environment than Pacifica. And but it's not really about the environment, it's about the relationships with the community,
Relationships,
and
conversations, and yeah,
right, and how we can make it happen. Um, in some places there are monthly meetings with the police, to talk about safety, to talk about um, things. So we're talking about how what's going to work here for Pacifica,
trying to
and we're
facilitate
trying
that.
to,
That's cool.
yeah, facilitate that conversation through, because there are some really progressive um, organizations that are very, very involved in police work, that are very, very dedicated to what's happening, and so their knowledge is really important. But there's walls up, right? They don't want to necessarily speak to the police yet. So we want to be this middle. We want to create that bridge, and that may be through program, that may be through training, that may be through meetings, that may be through facilitated talks, that's what we're trying to really work through right now.
That's exciting. It's also scary, but I guess the theme of this is like it's going to be hard, but it should be worth it. And
and we can't really do any wrong, right? Because this is new territory. This is a new frontier. We can't do anything wrong if we're willing to do the work, right? If we're
yeah,
willing to show up, be consistent, you can't do anything wrong. And if we're willing to have these conversations and be vulnerable and be like, really, just be honest
yeah. Let's try to create something
with who we are.
beautiful and build that
Yeah,
trust.
we all, right, yeah, we all have shit. And so how do we just come to this common place and then work on something from there? Um and so that's really what we're our big project right now. But we're also, in the back end, we're working on fundraising campaign for our startup campaign, and then we're working on an educational platform that will include groups and book club and support
This isn't
and,
with the PD. We kind of shifted a little bit. So it's the PD
oh yeah,
relationship and trust, then obviously fundraising and launching, so that we can really get off the ground at SUP. And then some of the things you're going to be doing within the community are the things you're discussing, like book clubs and more programmatic and service driven, I
yeah,
guess, action.
yeah, yeah. um but yeah.
What has there been any like crazy challenges? I mean, like you didn't just like wake up one morning and be like, I want to be the executive director of a nonprofit. Like, so was there what's been like the most challenging thing getting like a new nonprofit off the ground, and in this day and age, especially with the uh the topic of choice and the mission, and then what's been just like the most rewarding where you're like, all right, this is where I'm meant to be right now.
Um, yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, we started this process in June, and we're now 5, 6 months down the line, um, and still waiting on some last minute paperwork. But there's been many celebrations throughout the time, little steps. We celebrate all the little steps. We've got 9 board members, so we're stoked about
Nice,
that.
congrats.
Got our paperwork signed, so we're happy about that. We're incorporated. We've got our 501(c)(3). We're registered with California. We're just waiting now for our IRS letter. Um, so there's been a lot of there's been so much support for the work that we're doing. We know it's really needed, and it can be a lot of work. And so trying to contain it, right? Not trying not to do too much at the same time, because all of us that are the executives, Ray and Shauna, and myself, we all have other jobs as well
Yeah, I
that
don't
pay.
know how you. I know I take on a lot, but then like I'm glad I'm in
Uh,
good company.
yeah,
Excuse me.
and as we were talking before, that creative force, doing stuff with that energy, and just um, and trusting that inspiration, and going with it. Uh, it, uh, I doing this work is, again, you're taking the veil off of stuff. It's not easy. And diving into this work has been very therapeutic for myself. There's a lot of stuff that I held on to, or that I didn't let go of, or that I've just, grown over, and you just move on. And um when all this stuff happened with George Floyd, I mean, it started way back with Sandra Bland, really, but um, all this stuff comes up, and it's been such an emotional um few months for many reasons. I mean, COVID in and of itself, and then you
Yeah,
pile on this, and then you pile on that, and then you pile on this, and it's been trauma after trauma for all of us. Um, and so it's hard to I don't want to say it's hard to keep hope, or it's hard to keep going, because it really isn't. It's not about discipline. It's really keeping the concept of consistency uh in myself for this project, because this is this is just the beginning, right? We
I know.
really only just begun. And so how do we sustain that? How do we keep the same energy? How do we keep that going? um and um and so I think that that is something that we constantly really have to tap into, because we're having meetings every week. We have operations meetings every week, and we have action team meetings
Yeah,
every other week, once a month. So um and there's a lot of stuff that's happening in the creation of the organization, right? board uh Board job descriptions, all the
I
all
know
the
that all too well coming from. Yeah,
right? All the logistics that go into creating an organization.
yeah,
um
and you have to check all those boxes. You got to make sure you build that foundation before you can really go out there and
Absolutely. And so
get your
keeping
hands dirty.
in mind, and allowing ourselves to not rush.
So how do
I
you
think,
do that? What's your tip on like? I know you always talk about like progress over perfection, but I don't know if this is exactly that. But like staying consistent and not getting overwhelmed. What? How do you get through that? Or how is your team doing that? How are you leading and inspiring
well,
with that?
for us, I think showing up every week is how we hold each other accountable, right? And really, in a couple of other things that I do, that is probably the most important part, is just
Showing up.
showing up, because anything
That's a good
happens.
point.
Anything can happen, right? You show up whichever way you are. You have to show up, and you have to speak up. um and so
Even if you're not at your best, or you're not feeling 100%.
yeah,
Like just It's funny because I kind of just realized that this week I was having like an internal dialogue with myself, and it's like, no, just show up, man. Don't cancel. Like, just a little bit of progress, you get shit done.
Yeah, because and I mean, we just have to be where we are with and do the best with what we have. But for us three, showing up is the most important because we know this work is important. We can see it and um, we can foresee what this work is going to be and how
Yeah,
how effective uh, and how necessary it is. Um, and and that keeps us going. It keeps us motivated because we know it's important. Just even the conversations that we have are important for us three to be having.
that's a good point. It's
It
not
could
like
be
not
a
putting too
day
much
where
pressure on it.
it's our check-in.
The
And
check-ins. Don't underestimate the check-ins.
no, we cannot put pressure on ourselves because this is lifelong battle. This is a systemic thing, and as I said, it's practices more than it is in policy. And so how do we so that is therapeutic, and even more so we have to take care of ourselves in that process when we're trying to get deeper down into the layers of us as humans, because we all have stuff, right? So taking care of ourselves. So we don't, I mean, for me, I don't work on stuff every single night. We've kind of set, a couple hours a week we work on this stuff,
Yeah, and
and
that's
that
even
couple
better
hours
than.
can, yeah, because we can't, like, there's a lot going on. Um, we we work full-time jobs, and with a full-time job, that it's always more than just the 40 hours a
Yeah, you
week.
need to take self
And
time for yourself too, I guess. Like, are you doing
yeah, and,
that?
and
This is a friend checkup. Have you been taking time for yourself?
oh, yeah, absolutely. I just had like this beautiful 2 days. I went down and stayed at the Oceano,
Oh,
and
nice.
I put my hotel hat on, and anyways, we won't talk about it, but it was nice.
Oh, wait, good or
Um,
bad? We don't talk about it.
no, I left a pair of boots there, and now they're gone.
Uh,
And
well,
it,
hopefully, whoever has them needed them more than you. I don't know how you're gonna justify that one, but
that's what I always say. I learned that they needed it more than I did, so it's fine. But yeah, no, I'm it's in yeah, I'm definitely trying to keep all of this in balance because it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot to just wake up every day and do what we have to do in this world, although past few days have felt lighter. Um but it's just we have to remember it just nothing changes overnight.
that's the
And
hardest part is the patience.
great, as great as the celebration is, we still have we have 10 weeks to go. We have to be patient. um but there's still there's stuff to fix. Like, everything needs to go back, and we have to fix everything that was trashed basically
Yeah,
from this last years of partying. um and so just keeping that in mind, like, we have to pace ourselves, and we have to I have it written, we have to have boundaries, right? And we have to know how to say no to things. um
you're telling me, sister.
but, well, this we just learned, but there's we want to educate. There's only so much that can be done through protests, through marching, through things like that, right? We're trying to make some change, and so that takes some action and research and study,
Yeah,
and
you gotta organize. You gotta work local. You gotta educate. You gotta build the
right,
trust. It's good to hit the
yeah.
streets
So
too.
holding, absolutely. um but having boundaries, because if we're events take a lot out of you. So is that really where we want to put our energy right now? Probably not at the beginning, right? Because we're going to be burnt.
Yeah, have
And
one
I'm an,
annual event.
exactly. And so,
Meetups are cool, but
just learn,
like,
learning those things as we go along, how to say no, and knowing what feels right with what we're trying to with
Yeah.
our and
Slow
our
and steady.
yeah, and staying true to what yeah, what feels right. And um not worrying about the rest. We're not gonna solve everything, but we're gonna try and find solutions to whatever we can help with.
I'm excited
Um
to be a part of it and see the progress.
okay.
Is there anything else that we need to touch on? I got some questions from a few of our friends that will hopefully educate and enlighten anyone watching this as well. Is there anything that you want to talk about before we move on? Like anything you want to mention about Pacifica or what you're doing with SUP or anything that I missed before we get into a little Q&A?
Um
Any more fun
well
facts for Nicole Yarbrough?
um
Besides your mom's
social
quilting, we didn't say anything about her quilting. Sorry, I just cut you. I hate
oh
talking over you. Sorry. Hi, Elaine.
and I was gonna
I
it's all
slept
right,
with
you
my
do it.
quilt last night. All right, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so happy to hear that. Um,
It's
yeah, my
very
mom's master.
comforting. I just remember when you guys gave me it was probably a crazy time in my life, but yeah, I feel like a little boy just like in my quilt.
I know I have a mine's can you see that? It's a
Oh,
lava
nice.
Hawaii. Um, yeah, that's all I have on my bed is quilts. Yeah, I don't know. Sub be on the lookout for Sub's fundraiser that's gonna be coming out for our startup campaign to hopefully maybe get an office space out of that fundraising
Nice.
campaign so we
How much
really
square
get to
footage do
work.
you need? Did we already talk about this? What would be like a basic square footage for you guys?
And we're not picky
Okay.
since we have nothing anything more
Would it be like three
really.
desks? Like three enough for three people or for your meetings, I guess, or not really with COVID though, but like 1,000 square feet, you'd
I
feel pretty good or a little less.
I don't even know.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, for
You
three
know, I'm
desks
always like
would be
looking out.
great.
I want to do like restaurant, social unity, like grocery store, mental health with Mary, like all in one place.
Multicultural center.
Cool.
Mary's already in on it, so make that happen. Yeah, that's like our far-reaching goals. So say so. Right now, our work is the anti-racism work and getting into how we can affect change policies and practices. But our far-reaching goal is to have a multicultural
Like
social unity
a
center.
HQ
Where,
where good things are happening.
yeah, yeah, we're community. It's a community center, a wellness center, all of the above. So that's a little bit down the line, and who knows, that could be closer than we think. But then further down is a retreat center, a place where we can go, where people can go off to and take care of themselves
That's
and
cool.
learn
And like
and
companies can send their people and like that also,
yeah,
or more of
and
like
not
a individual.
well. I think that it's a both and. I think there's definitely consultant work available in this anti-racism realm of things, and so that is something that we would look into, or that will look into eventually, um, is being able to offer a space for people to come to really work on that stuff or work
That's
on
cool.
themselves. Um, mindfulness, yoga, all the stuff that we all
I
need
know I
for
keep
healing.
forgetting the yoga. Like you're gonna have such the coolest like retreat center. Like I like already want to go. I'm just gonna like come over to your house. Just like I'll be your guinea pig. All right, we got some questions. You know, break. You need to stretch or anything? You ready to do this? It's almost your bedtime, so don't look at the clock.
Oh, I'm an
You
early
have such a nice voice, so I just listen to that forever. Let me get that set up. No, I don't want to do that. What the heck? Oh, whatever. We'll just like this. Okay, I got like about 6 or 7 questions. I know I kind of mentioned some of these, and they're not really like formed as questions because I didn't have time to do that, and I'm still getting used to the format of Robby's World podcast. But the first question is: there was a tweet talking about like basically like what kind like basically, even though like people voted for Biden, chances are that like, and this is true, I can text someone that I know for sure that voted for Trump, and so it's like he's another white dude. So what kind of conversations should we be having? I guess just white people in general, or folks who just want to be part of the anti-racist movement, who are like, you know, engaged and not trying to debate you. Like they're into it, they want to help. Like, what are the kind of conversations that white people should be having with each other right now? And I know you're the spokesperson for all like women of color, so thank you for taking the time to go.
Disclaimer that is that is not. I do only always just speak for myself, but um, you know, I don't know if we can have those conversations just yet. If you think we have to be patient with that conversation, um, but I think eventually it needs to be had. And some people may have already had those conversations. Um, I, uh, you know, the joys of COVID, let's say, are that it's so easy to avoid a lot, right? We're not really seeing people face to face. So I think that the conversations that need to be had really stem from our morals and our values, right? Like, I mean, I just question how people could support somebody if you value this, or if you value that. How could you support somebody who's completely opposite that? And if this person is your friend, how could you support somebody who clearly, if had the opportunity, you know, could really affect their life negatively? Um, they're hard. It's hard. It's so hard um, because the choice is almost, it was like a life and death, a love and hate, right? Like, what side are you on?
And
What
some
are you
people
going
don't
to
see it
choose?
like that, unfortunately. So do you just not engage with those
No.
folks, or like when do you decide whether that, you know, that a white uncle of yours is worth this conversation, or you just kind of say your piece and move on?
Uh, yeah, because I mean, most of my family on my mom's side is white and most likely voted for Trump. I know particularly, a few that definitely did. And she was talking about having conversations with them. Um,
Your mom
so I will,
talking about
yeah, I
talking to
will
them. Yeah.
hear how those went. But yeah, for the most part, interestingly enough, like I unfortunately don't have a lot of engagement with extended family these days, and just the way our family dynamic is. Um, and it's strange that a lot of them are Trump supporters and that, we're really happy to be able to vote for him again. And I've tried to engage, and people have come on my page and engaged a little bit, and then I have to come back with a question. Well, what about this? And then it's crickets. And so I don't really try to engage anymore in those
Okay. So,
conversations.
but for folks trying to, you know, trying to figure out how they can have those conversations, it sounds like it's mainly like the anti-racist conversation, and it's not about just being like, oh, I'm not racist. It's about like, what does anti-racism look like? What does it feel like? How does it work? And it's evolving. So,
Yeah,
how would you
it's
give advice
evolved.
to someone going to like to their awkward Thanksgiving dinners, and this comes up, like if anti-racism comes up?
Well, it depends on what you're willing to handle, right? It's so case by case. Like, if you're ready and willing to have these conversations and potentially sever relationships, if if
So it's like
if
negotiation.
that's what you're
Be prepared to walk away from the family. And
prepared for, whatever, because
I like what you said
and
about
that's the
like this and that. Like you value
yeah, I
this, but
mean,
then
that's
how
the
can you do that? Can you see how that might look? You know, but it's very delicate.
yeah. and so that's kind of like an active listening technique, let's say. Like, you're listening to somebody and then you have to almost repeat what they say in question form
Yeah,
so
like
that they
mirror
can.
mirror what they say. So it's like active
Yeah, right.
listening, negotiating, and educating all at the same time. Like,
Well, it takes, and it's patience, and it's really um checking your rage and your
yeah,
and
I think
your
that's the hardest part for a lot of people that I know. Like, my
your
little brother talks. Yeah,
self-righteousness, right?
yeah, because you just get so frustrated that you just want to,
Yeah.
but that scares away that person, or it says like, look, you're like, I'm right, and it's just like, this is okay. We'll move on.
Yeah, and what Shauna said always.
What did Shauna
No, no,
say?
no, no. What Shauna says is she tries to call people in rather than calling people out.
Oh, that's a good one. I think I
And
have to
that
have her
is
on.
yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a powerful phrase that I'm just now really learning because
Even my whole body
and
got
and
calmer when you
and
said that. That's crazy.
I, so and how do you do that? How do you call somebody in without calling them out? And so that's where those questions come in, right? So asking them to dissect what it is that they're saying
Where'd
so
you
that
hear that? Why do you
they're
say that? What do you mean? Do you really feel that way? Stuff like that.
not necessarily. I think in my experience, you just have to you sometimes have to just show them what they're not seeing within their argument, let's say. So for example, and this was not one that I did tap into, but had I tapped into it, somebody was talking about how the Biden celebrations, right? Oh, I guess there's no COVID going on
Oh,
now
that's
since
funny.
all
I,
the
s- I-
Biden.
I saw someone post that on their Facebook, and I almost lost my shit. But
Right, but you're a Trump supporter and didn't say anything about maskless indoor
it's so
Trump
hypocritical. I
rallies
don't get it.
that actually produced COVID cases, that actually killed people,
Yeah,
that
killed
act
Republicans,
right?
black
You hear
Republican. Which is so you didn't
Ben
care about that
Carson
one.
now, Ben Carson now has COVID. Um, so and I didn't tap into that, and because I don't know if I have the energy anymore to
You
to
kind of
point
just let
point
those,
out, listen, like I just wanted to be like, take your L with dignity and shut the fuck up. Like,
but they're being told
really?
it's not an L. They're being told that they were cheated, that the election was stolen.
Well, and that goes to the level of intelligence. Let's go back to that,
To
right?
be
Like,
honest, the people who are sharing that though, I don't know whether it's intelligent or not, but they're very religious also. And we didn't touch on religion at all. We talked about money, how it affects you, but the religious and the way that he plays to that too, and he speaks very high, but he never says what exactly he's going to do. Like there's a lot of like religion, but we don't have another hour. But
yeah, because that would take an hour. That's a big, like,
that'll
I
be
grew up in
part
church.
two.
Like,
Part two, Nicole.
yeah.
Once you get your office set up, I'll come by with my mask. Okay, so I really liked what you just you it took a while to get there, but we got there. Is you want to invite people, you want to call them in instead of call them out, and then you can kind of expand on that and figure that out. Hmm?
Figuring out how that looks, right? Like, you can tell. I mean, you could tell when you're in communication with somebody if you're calling them out. If you're trying to call them out on what it is that they're doing rather than help them understand what it
Yeah,
is that they're doing, you could tell by your
you don't want to
way.
be calling people
You have
out.
to check yourself. Like, it's how you're delivering it, how you're
Yeah,
showing up. If you're angry with what they're saying, then what comes out is probably going to be you calling them out.
yeah, and you're doing yourself a disservice at that point. You're almost giving them more power.
It's such a hard balance. It's such a hard balance. And
Yeah.
so, and
So be kind. Call people in. Don't call them out.
but but I mean, how it's we can't even be that general, right? Like, I think
And
if you're for me, what I've learned is if I'm having like a physical reaction in our conversation, if my heart starts beating and I can feel like this
yeah.
thing start, then I'm not ready for this conversation.
So
Um,
okay, then you just kind of like get out a little bit and
yeah,
wish them well, and then you go back to your corner.
Yeah, because you know, we can't change people, but we can change how we react to things and how we approach things and how we
And
choose.
that'll help more. That'll help the conversation more than anything you could say,
Yeah,
maybe, or force them to feel.
but also it's not everybody's responsibility to change everybody too. Some people just
Yeah, don't take on
we
everyone.
yeah, we don't need to take it on because we have our own shit going on, right? And so we don't always need to take on projects. So
Yeah,
see
take on
where you're at,
yourself first. There's a good soundbite for you. Take on yourself first before you go take on some other anti-racist
number
shit.
one, right? We have to check ourselves and our and what we're doing. And again, nobody's perfect. We all but it's all rooted in us. Racism is rooted in us no matter who we are.
Yeah,
And where we're from. So
we were taught it
um,
whether we know it or not. There was that one video of that really sweet old lady who was just like, everyone's racist. If you're not racist, it's weird. Like, because just the way the education system and how we're all brought up. So this goes
yeah,
great into my second question, unless you want to hang on this one.
um no, that's okay. We can go on. We can
Okay,
move on.
what were you gonna say though? I don't want to cut you off.
It's fine. I think I lost.
Okay. So like I've had hard conversations with like, about like white privilege or just privilege in general. I've been hanging out with like my brothers more, and that they were raised not raised they're not racist. I'm saying they're raised not in my household so, it's not like I can expect them from me. But just like, there are some people that I know that just don't believe in white privilege. They're not like direct, um they're a couple degrees away from me, but like how often is this white privilege conversation coming up? And maybe I'm trying to like reframe the questions. um
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I guess, what is your opinion on white privilege, and how can folks who again are into becoming better allies, like how can they work on that? Or what's your thoughts on white privilege or white fragility, as you I think you told me about?
White fragility, white privilege. Um, um, there's a clear advantage in this nation, in this world, if you are a white person. It's just it's facts. Like accept it. Like that is what it is. That's why there's so many problems in this world. Why, right? Because there's a concept of superiority. Um, and privilege has been so magnified in the past 4 years. Um, White people can walk down the streets with guns blazing, and it's fine. But a black man can't sell a cigarette on the street without being killed. So um, I don't know if you can't make people accept it. You can give examples as to how it's showing up. And again, it's not really something that's on paper, it's in practice. Um, and it's a matter of awareness, and it's a matter of putting on a different lens and seeing, allowing your perspective to open a little bit to what other people experience. Um, but just the sheer fact that things may not have been as difficult um, is a privilege. Um, Nothing really should be difficult in this country, um, but it is, and it's more difficult for people of color, and it has been um, since day one of white people's occupation, I should say. Um, it's unfortunate that there can be so much violence on one side and so much what it seems to me forgiveness and love and acceptance from the side of the oppressed. um it's powerful, and I think that's the only reason why we're still alive today, and this nation is still going, because um, this the United States would be absolutely nothing without every person of color. I mean, it literally would not be the United States. Um, and so the thought that there's still half of the population that would vote for somebody so clearly on the side of white supremacy, supported by the KKK, supported by all these organizations that are so anti-American. Anti-American. It's not anti-fascist. It's
It's a bad reality
anti-American.
show, but we're living in it.
No, it's so crazy. Um, so yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Like it's just disturbing. To to be in this to still be in this state, and to know that there's still so much work um that needs to be done.
Is it? That's a good point, but it's like it's almost like the work. It's clear what the work is now.
It's getting clearer.
It's clear, and yeah, it's like you
It's
can't
getting,
turn back.
yeah, we can't go back. And that was, and and if we're going deeper, energetically, all these things that have come through, in a sense, as far as um just the energy of this planet in the last 4 years, that in and of itself, like, there just seems to have been so much extreme
Yeah.
stuff, both just on a human level and on a planetary
Yeah, it
level.
almost like set the tone for this like unease that like whether you feel it or not, it's in the air and it's all around us. It isn't. It's
And it's like it had to get so bad, right? It had to get as bad as it could get, as bad as we could handle, um, before this bit of awakening,
yeah. So
right? Like,
hopefully, the pendulum's swinging a little bit back now.
yeah. And I mean, one would hope, but again, it's like, where is that energy going to go? Where is that cult like mentality going to go?
Hopefully,
Where
not back in the shadows. Hopefully, it stays out so you can see it and
Well, it
fight
can't
it.
go back, right? Again, like you said, it can't go back. Once somebody's out, they're out.
Yeah, it's like people
Uh,
remember what you shared during this 2020. Like a lot more people at home, a lot more people were sharing stuff that they didn't realize was propaganda for both sides. But yeah, it's like I had to snooze a few people, and then they come back. It's like, oh, I remember. Like now I remember you more. So that's just interesting. But I just feel for them even more. Like, what are their circumstances that like make them feel like what they're doing or saying or supporting is okay? Like, I don't question that when I think about talking to you. So
yeah,
it's just interesting. Um,
it is. It's how can we be so far apart as a
yeah.
people? Like, it's like mind blowing. I don't get why you wouldn't just automatically vote for somebody who clearly is at least just a decent human being, right? I mean, if it nothing
Well, they
else.
just talk about him sniffing kids, and then they think they've won the argument. But then you could talk about a president that thinks it's okay to grab people in the vagina, and then you just go back and forth.
I
What?
feel like he's a grandfather. Like, don't
Those videos were kind of creepy, though. I'm not gonna lie.
I didn't see him, so
Okay,
I don't
but
really
yeah,
think.
like when you come at someone like that on the internet, it's just tick for tack, tick for tat. And it's like, was the goal to actually achieve something here, or was it just to like shit on each other? And it's hard to
Well, yeah,
achieve things together if you guys don't have the same goal. So that's where you don't know if someone's being sarcastic, if they're being a troll, if they really feel that way, and then you're just like, oh shit, do I need to take you out for a beer and just make sure you're okay? Like, are you? It's usually they're going through something worse, like hurt people, and they also vote for Trump. I feel like.
yeah. I mean, that's the question. Like, I think that's the big question. It's like, what is it? What is it? Why?
I
Why?
know it's so. I get in this conversation every once in a while. It's just like you can't really put your finger on it, but you can feel it. So, well,
Well,
I guess
it's
time will
like,
tell. What do you say? You
when you
kind of
go
cut out.
back
Sorry.
to the um when you go back to the question of, Kamala Harris versus Trump, here we have a cop on the Democratic side, that blue life, um, but it's also black life.
I know he picked a good one. I don't think. Do you think he could
Yeah,
have won if he didn't pick Harris to run with him?
no, I don't know. Who knows? I think, who knows? Probably not. If he
Yeah,
would have put would have picked a if he would have picked a I don't who knows? I can't even say. But probably it would have been maybe even closer. But I think it's just interesting for me how it was really about race for a lot of people. It's not necessarily about Trump or anything that he's doing for the country. It's his stance on the white race.
making people feel
Um,
okay to be racist again.
yeah, and that's a big part of, I mean, that's America, right? Like, um it was born on that, and so it's it's just so deeply rooted. Um and it's unfortunate that it's so passed on and that it hasn't lost its energy,
Yeah,
really. It's just kind of morphed, as the years go on, it just morphs. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, what is so great about the white race? Not to be disrespectful in any kind of way, but what is the superiority?
it's everything they taught you in your history books, Nicole. Obviously,
Well, I don't remember any of that. None
you
of it.
don't. I just
Um,
remember the Pledge of Allegiance and then just America. But
yeah,
yeah,
but
we didn't really learn about
it's just
the
weird.
history.
It's like there isn't really a reason. There isn't really,
We learned white history.
yeah.
It's almost like white is
There's no,
American history. So I mean, that's why people get so offended when you challenge that thought.
well, yeah. What does that mean? That goes around. When you challenge racism, it's like you're speaking against America.
Yeah, and people really retweet memes like that. It's like, oh my god, how do you not see that? Like, it's not A to B like that. So
Well,
it's
and
interesting.
that one sign at one of the baseball games, baseball is as American as racism, or racism is as American as baseball, or some shit somebody put up. And it wasn't like we're like, well, what are you trying to say here? Like, what exactly is this statement? That baseball is racist, and I don't know.
America's
It's just,
pastime is also racism.
yeah, yeah. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what it was. Um, yeah. So it's a lot. I mean, and it sucks because it's so unnecessary. There's so many other things we could be putting our energy into that have nothing to do with anybody's skin color. And if policies and rules and laws and everything and people really um, could just honor everybody's differences instead of being such dicks
Yeah,
about, you know, I mean, this would be a united state. Like,
that's
we
the
could,
irony in it. Did you see that meme where it was like, "This how about no government? Everyone agrees just to be cool." I think it was like Samuel Jackson, like just to be fucking cool. But
yeah,
let's
I think
let's
that,
start with Pacifica. We'll start with us, of course. We're gonna retouch on a few of those topics, but I want to get through the rest of these. Are there any like local organizations that you want to highlight in Pacifica that people should look into supporting or giving their time or energy in? Local businesses, local nonprofits. Obviously, the Pacific Resource Center. You're on the board there, and I work there, so that just goes without saying. But anything else? Any other local businesses or anything that you're partnering with or are part of your social unity project?
yeah. So Josh Kisler definitely is on our board. So he's part of Kisler Coffee. So support him. Go check him out. He's up um in Pacific Manor, but I know he's moving now down to Palmetto pretty soon. So that's pretty awesome. Florrie's Books, always. I just love that place. It's just so special to have a little small bookstore in town. Um, I'm a freak about books. I don't read
I've
them
bought
as
a lot
much.
of books. I haven't read them yet, but I've been buying them. They're comforting.
So many, and I go through phases, right? Reading them. But he's going to work with us to make the book available that we're going to be using for the Social Unity Project Book Club, which is My Grandmother's Hands. And it's a really deeply, deeply rooted book. So it should be a real interesting group to be a part of. There's one already happening that's full of like 150 people. So
Oh,
um,
nice. Not with that
it's a
book, with
book
another book, but then you're gonna more.
with that book, not us, but another
Oh,
group.
okay. I got you.
And there's 150 people, which I think is amazing. So it's a really powerful book. We've suggested it to the police department as well. So we're gonna work on that. Shauna's gonna lead that book club.
You know when
Um,
that's gonna be available for people to like sign up or?
yeah, I think it's gonna be probably when we after we post our campaign, we're gonna be getting that going, our fundraising campaign. So probably within the next month or two, we'll be
So
getting that.
before the end of the year, people are able to donate and then also be a part of the book club.
Yeah, we'll probably get it started before the end of the year,
Okay,
or
cool.
yeah, get everybody signed up and
Is
registered.
it locals only, or are you gonna have like a virtual thing, or what?
No,
I
it's
guess
gonna be all virtual.
I guess it's COVID, so I keep yeah. Okay, so basically,
Oh,
anyone watching this from anywhere in the world can sign up for the Social Unity uh, Project Book Club.
yes,
Okay, cool.
and we'll have that on the website, socialunityproject.org. Um, we'll have that up when the campaign starts. But yeah, definitely Pacifica Resource Center. Um, and I'm also on the board now at Blue Bear Music, which is in San Francisco, but they are a nonprofit um, that brings music
Are they the
to
ones that set up like the studio at your office, or? Okay,
yeah, we partnered on that to bring the recording studio to Hunter's View.
sweet.
So yeah, they provide classes. It's a nonprofit. So yeah, they're cool. And who else? You know, all of our little local merchants, local restaurants, everybody needs help right now. So as locally as you can keep it.
Where have you been eating? Because I know it has been Breakers. Where have you got the most takeout from?
I'm so in need of a breaker meal. It's like
I'm
crazy.
sorry.
Really, really horrible. A bacon waffle with two
We're
eggs.
working on it. I think I'm either gonna have Mary or my dad on next, and then when we have my dad on, I think we'll announce the date that we're trying to reopen.
Oh, good.
So stay tuned. It's a cliffhanger.
um, so because I'm in Sherwood Park, Kitten and Bunny.
Well, it
Um,
was Bunnies. Now it's Kitten and Pinky.
Kitten and
That's
Pinky.
Vietnamese food. So you've been hitting that, and
Yeah, I love their vegetarian or their vegan sandwich. I love that.
it's cool.
Um, and I spend a lot of time in the city, so I don't always eat here in Pacifica. But when I do, I always, Pacifica Brewery, of course. Um, and what are my other favorites? I love La Playa because you can't
We've
get a
had some
better
good times at La Playa.
better margarita anywhere, and that chicken empanizado is off. It's just the best thing ever. Um, so we're lucky. We're just lucky in Pacifica to have some really great
We do
places.
have some gems, and we could always use more restaurants. So please
Oh,
come to Pacifica. If you want to open a
out,
restaurant, let me know.
out. I mean, a lot. We need a lot. We have some really great ones, but absolutely, I would love to have more options, especially here in Sharp Park.
Yeah, in walking distance. Maybe on Palmetto, right on Main Street. Tiger was talking about Main Street
Maybe we should have a few restaurants. Uh,
and a community center.
I feel
Social
like
media.
cafes and we have enough bars. Like I could walk, to both of those
Yeah.
quite. Um, but yeah, I haven't. It's this COVID is really been interesting. So yeah, food wise, I feel like I'm just getting bored. I'm bored.
Okay, well, just hang on like a week or two. I got you. Don't trip,
Oh
okay?
my God, I need something new. Uh, but yeah, the local cafes really are very.
That's cool. I might have to get some. I live by Oasis, so I went there a couple times, but none of
Oh,
them are as good as Have you been to Oasis yet? They're fuzz good. If I'm getting a sandwich, I go to Dinosaurs, and like when I was working at PRC, I'd go down to Kitten and Pinky, but no one
I
can
don't,
touch bunnies. I miss them.
I don't even think I had bunnies, but I don't like dinosaurs. I didn't like the mushroom one, and I'm trying to stay away from the meat these days.
Yeah, and I'm trying to stay away from the bread, so I go for the spring rolls. But I'll next time I'm craving it, I'll go to Kitten and Pinky. So
Spring
maybe I'll hit
roll
you up.
peanut sauce is my favorite.
Yeah, that's the good. Okay, I got three more questions, and these are a little more direct, so I didn't have to like reword them as much. I asked Kevin if what he wanted to ask, and I just love the way he thinks out loud. He put, it's kind of broad, but 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 maybe what are some everyday things people can do or not do to be better allies?
Well, I think you just have to really have this self-awareness now, right? Like a different awareness of what's happening around you. Um, and we have to really be willing to stand up for each other, um, and fight for each other and realize that whatever you're doing to benefit somebody else is going to benefit you. Um, you know, we don't to be nonviolent is a big topic. It's not just that physical violence. It's really in how you speak to people. It's how you treat yourself, which then goes into how you show up. Um, you have to be willing to be in a vulnerable place, right? That's so hard. Um, to be wrong or to have said something that hurt somebody or to have not been aware. Um, and we have to not be hard on ourselves, both sides, right? Like, don't be so judgmental of yourself because we're all trying to uproot something that's pretty deeply ingrained in a lot of aspects of our lives. Um, and so just really giving yourself that time, paying attention to how you're feeling, um, especially in conversation, especially uh, in whatever work that you're doing uh, in this direction. Um, a lot has gone on in these last few months, and it's trauma, and so we have to understand trauma. Give yourself a minute to understand trauma because it's a new word for some people, and a lot of people don't even realize how many traumas they're dealing with and how their life is
Or they're
really.
avoiding it.
Yeah, well, yeah, but and how they're acting now or how they move through the world now is because of some of those traumas. um and really being able to kind of decipher what thoughts are yours and what aren't. We are so conditioned in this nation as well, in this world. And so um I think, just going back to the self, we really have to um get down into the layers of ourselves. We lived quite superficially, um just by nature, but there's a lot energetically that we don't even know about ourselves. And so really understanding how connected we all are once we get past all this surface bullshit, um and how we affect each other, how the move that decision that you made, how that affected this person over here. um and really taking a step back and looking at your friends, looking at your family, looking at who you have around you and what you're tolerating, right? Because what you're tolerating is continues. And so how can we, even in our own little worlds, how can we change the chemistry of what we're in, right? You don't have to have anybody. You don't have to talk to anybody. You don't
Yeah,
have to have
you'd be better off just working on yourself, and that that would make a difference than trying to go out and being a social justice warrior. Like it's got to start at home first, right?
yeah, that's the first layer, and I think that gets really lost. That's the most important is really just tapping into uh who you are, how you're feeling, um and what you can do in this, and what you're inspired to do, right? What's your yes? What do you, and do it. And don't worry about what anybody else has to say about it. If your intention is good and you want to make a positive impact, um, you know, go for it.
Start your
And
podcast. Call it Robbie's World. Thanks. I feel like you're
yeah,
talking right to me there.
do it.
And I
And
yawned, but I was gonna talk and yawn. Sorry. I think that was like my favorite answer to the whole thing. It's funny that like Kevin thought that was such a broad question, but like a lot of stuff you said, it's like that's the stuff that like you need to be reminded of and to go inward. So
yeah, no, we
I
can't.
appreciate that.
That's where change begins. It's
Would
not.
it the things not to do would be the opposite? Like don't be a dick. Like if you're not
Well,
gonna help, get out of the way.
yeah. Um.
Treat people how you want to be treated. Don't be
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't even know what not to do. Don't be an asshole. Like really.
Stop spreading misinformation. Get your sources.
And check your morals. Like, what do you really value? And like, really ask yourself, what are you supporting? What are you
Yeah.
really?
So stop doing that blindly. I'm trying to flame it in the key of like what not to do, but yeah, it's basically the opposite of what we were talking about. And
Don't be self-aware. Just be a
avoid
robot.
your trauma. Be a dick.
Yeah, and bring
Don't
people
don't
down.
get mad or get mad when someone holds you accountable. I'm trying to think of all the.
Yeah,
Don't
'cause-
minimize your black friends' feelings when they try to come to you and talk to you. I don't know. It's just what are the very stereotypical things that like when you
yeah.
picture.
I think one thing that I've noticed along the last few is that I think one thing that is so hard for people is to just listen. Like, let's say, if somebody's telling you something about their experience, like, how can you just listen? Can you just listen and not have something to say,
It's
not
hard.
relate, not not say anything? Like, can you just say thanks for sharing that with me? Let me know if there's anything I can do for you or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
um and that I think it's hard because we want to fix it. And
I'm guilty of it.
yeah, me too. We all are. And we can't always do that because people have their own, and that's part of those active listening tools, right? People have their own answers, and they know what they need to do. But in some cases it's not really about doing anything. It's just about speaking it and getting it out and saying it. Because you can't really say anything to me about when I was 8 years old, and somebody, just listen. It's something that affects the way that people move through life, all these little different things. um and take those stories and then understand then why this person might move the way that they do, right? It's not about judgment. It's just about being curious as to how you got to where you are. It's not what's wrong with you. It's like what's happened and how, and 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 then those things explain how and the whys, and all those things about a person. And so everything is explainable, right? Everything is, and it's just a matter of being patient and listening. um y- and when you really are listening, you'll hear things that they're not saying. And just being compassionate and understanding that if you are white and you're hearing these things, that there's absolutely no way that you're going to understand or relate or feel the same way or have any comparable experience. It's really not going to happen. So if 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 I'm speaking about, something in a Black experience that happened, um, it's not like what happened to your dad or whatever. It's not, it doesn't even matter what it is. If it's a Black experience, that is what it is. And so just being comfortable, being comfortable with discomfort, I think that came up in one of my other um zoomies. um just being comfort with discomfort, because that's where all like the juicy stuff is in
Yeah,
that.
that's where the learning and the healing and the even the imagination, it just
Yeah, where you find
the
like different
magic.
yourself. Really, that's where you learn about yourself, is in those moments of discomfort. And we are forever evolving beings. There's never an end until you know, there's never an end, to be honest. But, physically there's an end. But,
Yeah,
uh, and so we're always evolving and always being willing to learn. I think if you think you know everything, you have already lost, and your life is going to be horrible, right? Like, there's no way that you can know everything. And in that same respect, forgiving yourself for the shit that you didn't know, that maybe you have been told you should have, which there really isn't a should. You know what you know, and that's what you
yeah,
know. um but I mean, we have to go with the ebbs and the flows of all of this. And that, I think, um is just important to keep in mind, that it's not always going to be bad, and it's not always going to be good, and eventually we're going to get to this place um where there is going to be an actual feeling of being united. We've never even really been there. Like, we've had little band-aid moments, with patriotism and all these things like that. But patriotism is just a concept. It's not like a feeling. It's not in the spirit of our people, right? So getting there eventually, we're gonna, you know, still have hope.
thanks Obama. I was just like, how people go, thanks Obama. Yeah, you
I
that's
get excited about him potentially being back in the White House in some aspects. So
yeah, but then even he was like no saint. It's like crazy the things I learned about him, and just like all presidents are warlords. I mean, not to get into, but it's just like
well, and that's
this
kind of
is the real America.
right, like that. It's so deeply complex, and we've been plugged into this system, and it's a system, and it's not. It's unfortunate that not everybody voted for the Green Party. Like, why isn't everybody just voting for the Green Party? If we don't like any of these motherfuckers, like, why can't we just all vote for the Green Party and be done with it? Um, I don't know. It's
Because it's a big club and you ain't in it. Or was that George Carlson? But
and it's amazing how some things that have, the memes or the quotes or the observations of people of the past, how relevant they still are or have come about again.
mhm.
And that, I think we just have to educate ourselves in order to evolve past these
Yeah, don't
moments.
just read the memes. Someone, a friend, I was catching up, and he like reads and like goes deep and asks questions, and it's just like the layer of the internet where most people are getting their information from. There's already an issue there, but um, you know, my Facebook feed is a lot different than my Instagram feed, and so I'm grateful for that. But I've been saving a lot of things and gonna start following up, start having conversations with folks like you and all my friends who are trying to make the world a better place. So that can be the start of my contribution and trying to do some good, make shit better, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can't. That's what we're here to do. We can't just come out and make it worse every day and have that intention. It's really just that basic, kind of that basic is, what's your intention? Um, and and just realizing that it one person can make change, because it starts with one person. It starts with
Yeah,
one big.
you gotta pee in the ocean to make it rise. You ever heard that one?
No.
Do you like that one?
What was it again?
You only have to pee in the ocean to make it rise.
I'm not getting the analogy.
It's kind of like, you know, like small gesture, like you can't affect change. Like,
Oh, so you can pee in the ocean, it'll make it right. I get it.
yeah,
Okay.
like it's maybe it's getting late. Or I'm just not as funny as I thought it was. Actually, that was a borrowed analogy from a friend, you know, a friend that I don't even talk to anymore. Maybe that's why. But yeah, if you got some inspiration out of that, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Nicole. We got two more, and this is from a close friend of ours as well. They want to know if you or SUP are collaborating with other groups or other city staff. You talked about, you know, the PD relationship that you're building, and like, you know, just in general, what are you guys doing together? And then we will close up with, you know, what kind of resources is SUP seeking? Like, are you ready for volunteers? Do you need supplies? You talked about like office space, you know, promotion, donations, etc. So yeah, who are you working with? What's going on like in the city? And then how can people help?
So we are working, I wouldn't say that we're like working with anybody right now, because we're so new and we're still trying to establish ourselves. But we are supported by many people. Mary Pierre, who is so special, and one of our councilwomen here, is such a dear friend, um, and supporting this type of work is something that's so great for the community, because we're trying to create this sense of unity that we really hope for this whole nation. And so um figuring out what that looks like here in Pacifica. um we are definitely open to working with other organizations. We have talked with, the social justice, Pacifica Social Justice, um, Progressive Alliance, all those groups in there. Um, but right now, we are really trying to like focus on building our foundation as an organization, what we're going to do independently um, of everybody else, because I feel as though we're in this different lane than everybody else. And
Yeah,
so,
there's going to be a
uh,
gap to bridge, and it's, you know, there's going to be
yeah, like,
generational things happening. I felt it when, you know, I started working with these folks too. Like, there's a big learning curve, but people who get it, oh man, it's going to be magic. And people who don't will kind of just be on the outskirts. But yeah, you got to build your own foundation and collaborate,
yeah,
as
and
Mary
so,
puts it. Well, she really goes,
yeah,
collaborate.
and um, yeah, so we're kind of moving slowly with that, because I think we have different missions, but we can definitely all support each other in them. Um, and so we're open. We're open to talk with organizations at this point. We've kind of been holding off on things just because, again, we need to be able to sustain ourselves
Totally.
um, work, and so not getting burnt out and too overwhelmed at the beginning. Um, but yeah, we are in the process of developing partnerships and relationships with a lot of different people and organizations. And we've got, our board members that are supporting us, and our action team members that join us for our Sunday meetings. um, so yeah, just moving it along, just keep going forward, keep showing up.
And so if people want to get involved and help, what do you need, or what can they do, or can they email you, or is there a website, or first, what do you need, and be honest, and then
So
how can they get a hold of you?
uh, what we need is, we are doing our fundraiser, which will be coming up in the next couple weeks. It's our startup campaign. And we are looking to raise funds for us to be able to do this work. So
To kind
that
of
means
launch the initial
the
projects
launch,
and the initial.
yeah, the projects, the educational platform, as well.
Are you also working on like grant funding and stuff like that, or is that's cool?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to work on that. Mary's actually going to support us and help with that. Um, so that's really exciting. But yeah, we're going to be starting that in the next couple weeks. And right now we're on Facebook, Social Unity Project, and we are on Instagram, social.unity.project. And then our website is socialunityproject.org. And our email is whatsup@socialunityproject.org.
Can you spell that out? WHATSSUP.
No, WHATSUP.
Like
So
what's
not,
up?
yeah, what's
Okay.
up?
We're gonna work on that branding when I get involved. We'll figure it out. But yeah, you've been doing great. It's so fun. I can't wait for the merch. There's got to be a merch drop coming. Maybe beanies,
Yeah,
hoodies,
it
something.
is. It is. We're working on that right now.
So
So,
members and money make this stuff possible, folks.
well, not members because we are,
Well, like not members, but like supporters, people who want to get involved. And we're
yeah,
gonna show up to these things and what do you call
yeah,
it?
our meetings, have these conversations, engage on our pages, and just pay attention, be aware, reach out if you have any questions. We're seeking some teachers if any teachers want to get involved in this anti-racism work. We're looking to get some teachers on our team. If you have any experience in nonprofit, if you want to volunteer, feel free to reach out. If you have any young people are just bringing it in these movements. So we're absolutely open to anybody, any age, any color, any gender are absolutely welcome at Social Unity Project. Um, it's there's a lot of issues to get through in order for us to be united. So, we also act as support on other issues that we may not be um, necessarily directly personally involved in. If people need support, we welcome them to reach out to us as well. Um, yeah, so just trying to continue the healing part of the work I do. Um, and just pivoting, shifting into what's needed right now. um the power of yoga is that it's about uniting. It's about uniting the body and mind, um and with that, it's really this need to collectively unite. And there's a lot of um, there's a lot of things within the practice of yoga that can really be transferred and used in this type of work, in anti-racism work.
Yeah,
The
it's kind of
non
like all your strengths that I know you for, like, are kind of encompassed in this. And the fact that this is only the beginning is like really exciting for me too, because I know we're all gonna grow from this. But yeah, it's cool to see you finally doing this work because I feel like you already were, and now it's got a name, and now it's got a following and it's got board members. I think you and Shauna work really well together, and you just bring so many different things to the table. And then both you guys being locals, obviously, like I'm into that, and yeah, like First Pacifica, then the world is kind of how I've been describing, like my activism, so to speak, or just like the stuff that I have planned. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot happens on the local level, folks. So get involved. Is there anything else that we should talk about briefly before you pass out?
um
Should I have asked you anything else? I've probably skipped over a
mhm.
few like big things about like what's happening in Georgia, or I know you're gonna update me a little bit about like the Ohlone Portola statue, but with that can be, I could post about that later. But is there anything else that I should have asked you or that people should know about you or Pacifica or Social Unity Project?
Um, Check out Social Union Project. Join us. We're here to do good, to make some change, and to do the work, to put action behind our words. Um, I think we're in this very revolutionary time right now, and I think that um, as we come down from this celebratory um, time, we still have to be vigilant in this work. Um, we went back 4 years. We really did go back. And so we really need to wrangle everything back to the present moment, and really getting clear on what it means to be an American, because this last few years has shown us a whole different side of this nation, and it's disturbing. And the just it's been like an explosion of all this crazy hate. And so just waking up, and knowing that you can play a part in making that change, um leading with love, eyes of love, right? Like, not no judgment, just being curious about the people around you, but really understanding that we're all connected, and the choices that we make affect our community. And so how can we really learn to do what's best for each other?
All right, one word to describe how you feel, I guess, about the podcast or just in general, or how you're feeling right
I
now. One
feel
word.
like
What did you say?
uh
I think it cut out. Did you say shit?
no. I just I'm horrible on camera. I hate it.
No way.
Uh, I
What was your word though? It cut out, and you just like
oh,
shut.
I didn't say a word. I
Oh,
didn't say a word yet. I keep rebellious has been a big word this past few months, just being rebellious in a good way, right? We're these days, to be rebellious is to really go against the grain of this system that has been the American system the whole time. And so rebellious is not, it's not a bad thing. It's really what's needed. It's really, we need to get back to those days of having these radical ideas that really are so big, and even we just can't even really comprehend them. Um, but having some faith in the idea itself. And I think we have a tendency to kind of let a lot of ideas just fly past, but we really get inspired a lot more than I think we pay attention to. And so um you know following those inspirations, the good ones, when it comes to moving along this feeling of really what America used to be, and getting back to this place um, where the world looks at America and it's like, wow, instead of
yeah,
like,
back on the pedestal that we deserve, not just
like
scared people into.
don't look,
Yeah, we're like,
don't look.
oh, that family's really nice. I want to be a part of that family, and then you figure out they're like a cult. You're like, oh, fuck them. But we actually want to be the
Don't,
exemplary. So
yeah. Oh, you asked for one word.
I
That
think
was
you
a
said rebellious. I liked it. It was good.
okay. Okay, yeah.
So I'm gonna call it. I don't even know. I don't have a clock, but I think we did good. Thank you for coming on the second episode of Robby's World. Of course, we're gonna have you on, and we're gonna be working together. I look forward to getting into some good trouble with you. And yeah, well, I'll probably see you soon. We'll get some food, talk some shit, talk about life. I'll send you all this, and then you can send it out to your white family and have them listen to it, and then I'll send it out to some. I'm just kidding. Yeah, tell your mom hi. Tell her I love her, and obviously I love you, and I'm just grateful for you taking the time and putting up with all my crazy ideas, and yeah, I think some good is gonna come out of it. So the light
Always.
in me honors the light in you. Is that what it is?
Yes, the light in me, the peace in me, the beauty in me honors the light, the peace, and the beauty in
Because
you.
peace begins with me.
Me.
All right,
Love
namaste, Nicole. Thank you so much for being on the episode, and I'll get this up tomorrow. And yeah, if you need
tomorrow.
anything,
It a little bit.
I don't know. Maybe people need to see the rawness of like broke. This is what it is because I'm telling people to start podcasts, so it's not gonna be perfect, but not bad for the second episode. And we
Right,
look damn
good.
good, so that's half the battle.
Right.
All right, thank you so much. Love you. Peace,
Yeah.
love.
Hi.
Bye.
Thank you.